What's up, everybody? Benji Bruce here with the Benji Bruce podcast, and we are going to go over just feeling stuck. Like, you know how a lot of times, a lot of people, they tend to do a lot of research and planning, and you need to understand that doing all this researching and planning, it makes you feel stuck, and it's literally ruining your life, your business, and everything. And I don't think people truly understand this in terms of the researching and planning all the time, because that's what causes that stuck feeling. So it's basically when you feel stuck, you feel that way because you're not doing what you know you should be doing. In your mind, you know you should be doing something. Like, you know, okay, I could be doing this marketing thing. I could be doing this, that. You know what you should be doing, but for some reason you're not doing it. And then what happens is you go back and you start planning and then researching. You're like, oh, let me go back to my plan. Let me write a plan. And you start doing that. And you're not actually doing anything. And I remember, I can't remember like where I read this or saw it or anything, but it was talking about Jeff Bezos, and it said something like Jeff Bezos basically said, if you're planning for more than 15 minutes with your business, if you're trying to come up with a business plan for more than 15 minutes, then you're just wasting your time. And what he was like essentially alluding to is that it doesn't really matter how much you plan because it's never going to turn out that way. And so what happens is you're going to go through this phase of feeling stuck until you realize how useless all this planning and researching is without execution. Planning, it feels productive. Like you sit there and you feel productive in terms of what it is you're doing, but you can't really plan execution. So think about it like this. Think about it like if you're trying to learn basketball or any sport, basketball, tennis, any sport, anything, chess, poker. If you're trying to learn something, you can't plan the execution of it. You simply can't. Even in chess, you can't plan the execution of it. There's no possible way. And the same goes for business. You cannot plan building a business. You simply can't. So one question that helped me a lot was I sat down and I asked myself, with everything that I did, I said, okay, if I did this thing all day, every day for a year straight, what would happen? So if I'm sitting here planning and I'm researching, I'm planning, I asked myself, if I were to sit down and plan for a year straight, what would happen? And the thing is, nothing would happen, absolutely nothing. You just have a big notebook of ideas. And so I asked myself that question to make sure that I was doing all the right things in the business in order to grow the business. And so that's a question that you should be asking yourself just to make sure that you're not planning and researching all the time. Because I used to wonder, and I remember when I was doing a lot of the events as an entertainer, what I would do at times is I would offer like a free show to a conference if I knew that there was going to be like these multimillionaires there where I wanted to talk to them. So I would offer like a free show. And then I go there and I thought to myself, as I'm talking with all these guys, I'm like, these guys are dumb. And that's literally what went through my head. I'm like, these millionaires, multimillionaires, they're not as smart as what I thought they'd be. I literally thought a lot of them were dumb. And I came to this conclusion. The reason why is because they just do it. Just like Nike's commercial. They just do it. Like they're not sitting there researching and planning all day, every day. They're just like, okay, you know what? I got a cold call. Okay, let me pick up the phone. Boom. Let me just call somebody. Whereas most people, if you tell them, okay, you got a cold call, they're like, well, what do I say? I mean, let me plan and let me look, where do I like find the numbers and let me sit down and write a script and all. Like most people are doing all that. Whereas a lot of the dumb millionaires, you tell them like, oh, just cold call. They're like, okay, cool. Boom. Just pick up the phone. Just open up, just go to Google, just type something in. Boom. Okay, there's a number. Let me call that number. That's literally what they would do. That is why they were where they were. And so it literally boggled my mind at first. I'm like, how come there's so many dumb millionaires? But after I talked with them and I saw what they were doing, then I realized, okay, that's a difference. Like at the time I was sitting there, I was one of those who was planning and researching all the freaking time. And then I talked with them and I realized, I'm like, okay, maybe they'll plan for like a little bit and then they're just off to the races. That's literally what they do. And that's the planning and researching. It causes you to be stuck. So you need to understand that everything changes when you take action. This is why Mike Tyson, there's one of my favorite quotes where he's like, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. because it's very true. Like all your planning, all that, and every single entrepreneur will tell you this. Every single millionaire, every single person who's built a 7-figure business, or not even 7 figures, it's 6 figures. Every single entrepreneur will tell you that no matter how much they planned, it did not turn out that way. No matter how much, no matter how smart they were, it does not turn out the way you think it will. And that's why Tyson said, look, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. There's always unforeseen events. There's always unforeseen execution in general. It's like when I was cold emailing. So when I was trying to get hired as an entertainer back in the day, and I'm like building up my entertainment business as an illusionist, mentalist, I would cold email like all day, every day. And at first, the reason why it took me so long is because I did what everybody else did. I sat down, I planned. I'm like, well, what do I say? And like, all right, let me write this out. Okay, let me do this. And all that planning, it was for nothing. But what would happen is there was a lot of unforeseen execution. So I never could have planned that part of executing how to cold email. And I just had to figure it out as I went. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to figure it out as you go. Like, let's take chess. Like, chess is a perfect example. If you think in terms of, is there something you can plan all the way to the end, you would think, okay, chess, like the grandmasters, they see like 20, 100 moves in their head and all sort of stuff. So you would think, okay, maybe they can like really plan it. But even in chess, the chess grandmasters, they can't see the whole game. They can see several moves ahead, especially if you're a beginner and everything, they'll definitely crush you. But a grandmaster, they can't see the whole game, not even with a beginner, if they're going against a beginner. Because there's a lot of unforeseen execution. As you're actually doing the things that you need to be doing, a lot of things are going to come up that you never even imagined. These are the unknown unknowns. So it's like if you're going to cold call, that you have to say something. So you're like, okay, let me write out a script. That's like an unknown known. So you know that you got to say something, but you don't know what to say. So it's like an unknown known. But as you execute, a lot of things are going to happen that you didn't even think about. And so you're going to start maybe cold calling or doing something with your marketing. Things that you did not imagine are going to pop up. And that's how it works. That's why Mike Tyson's thing, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that's why Jeff Bezos said, look, if you're trying to plan for more than 15 minutes with your business, you're wasting your time. Because what you're essentially doing is you're planning, and it's never going to turn out that way. You need to understand that your brain needs stimulation. So if you are trying, if you're stuck, it's because you're doing the same things like over and over. You're going in circles, and it creates this stuck feeling. And that's why you feel stuck, because you're doing the same things. You're thinking the same way. If you were to actually look at your notebook, if you actually have a notebook where you're planning stuff, if you looked at that, I guarantee you it looks the exact same when you're writing out your notes. Like, let's say today versus a week ago, a month ago, or whatever, like it looks the same because you usually know what you should be doing. Hey, I should be cold emailing. Hey, I should be spending money on advertising. Hey, I should be doing this. I should be doing, what it is you should be doing, but you're just not doing it because you're thinking like, oh, there's something I'm missing. And you're trying to figure out a better plan and all that sort of stuff. But what's happening is you're not giving your brain the stimulation that it needs in order to actually figure this out. So you have to get in the trenches. You have to figure it out. And I always say this, an entrepreneur's superpower is figuring it out. That is literally your superpower. People think that every entrepreneur, all the greats, everyone thinks, oh, they had some master plan, some master strategy. That's not what happened. They just said, okay, I can see 1 or 2 moves ahead. Okay, well, let's just do that and let's just see where it goes. That's literally what everyone's doing. Everyone's figuring it out as they go. And so I remember like when I started creating some TikTok videos, at first I thought, okay, well, with TikTok, you know what, let me make a couple videos where I'm going to show my day. And so that's what I was saying. Let me show my day, show everyone what it looks like behind the scenes in terms of building a brand. And at first I was talking, like I would sit there and I'd talk in the videos. I'd sit there and, you're holding your phone up, hey, everybody, all right, let me show you my day. So first I'm doing this and I'm doing this. So at first I started doing that. But then all of a sudden I got into the editing and I realized like, this isn't really the format that's perfect for TikTok. Like what's good is if I don't say anything at all, I just make a visual and then I have captions that basically describes what it is I'm doing. And then I add music in the background. And that actually turned out a lot better. I never would have thought about that unless I actually did the thing. Like I couldn't come up with that idea. As simple as it was, My brain didn't go there until I actually did it. And then I realized, this isn't really the right way, the way I'm talking. Let me just stop talking. And even though I like the sound of my voice, but I'm like, okay, let me just not talk and let me just put it to music and have the captions, and that's that. And you can't figure out stuff like that until you actually do it. Your brain needs the stimulation. What happens with a lot of people is they're not prepared for the uncertainty. Uncertainty is really hard because they're thinking like, well, how do I know this is going to work? And the fear of the unknown tends to hold you back because you don't know, hey, with you know you should spend money on advertising if you're building a brand, but then you're thinking, well, what exactly do I say? You're like, I don't really know, like, oh, how do I set up the ads? And what do I write in the ads? And what about the image? Like, you don't know. And so what happens is people don't know that. So now all of a sudden, what do? They're like, all right, let me go to Google. Let me research all this stuff. They start doing it. A month goes by and they still haven't done anything. They're listening to all these people's YouTube content, podcasts, and all that sort of stuff. And they keep hearing the same stuff over and over, listen to webinars, all that sort of stuff. And the person on webinars and all this content, they're saying things, and the person listening is thinking to themselves, well, I know that. I've heard it before. And that was me. Like, I remember when I was building my entertainment business, that was me. I'm sitting there. I read a gang load of marketing books, like a ton. And that's why when I met all these millionaires, I thought to myself, these guys are dumb. I'm like, I know way more than these guys. And so what would happen is whenever someone would say something in my head, I'm like, yeah, I know that. And I know. But I wasn't doing all that sort of stuff. And so that's what happens. Like, the uncertainty is really hard for people. And the only way you're going to figure out that uncertainty, the only way you're going to make uncertainty certain is to actually do the work, to get in the trenches. You can't plan your way through uncertainty. You have to act through it. That's how it works. So it's like the way you're going to solve the problem of planning is literally do the next step. Whatever that next step is and what it is you know you should be doing, do the next step and figure it out as you go. It's like you're literally building a bridge as you're walking across it. That's literally what it is you're doing. You have to become a problem solver. That is what entrepreneurship is about. You are solving problems. So don't get stressed at the problems because problems are inevitable. Like, you're building a business, problems are inevitable. So you have to learn to figure it out. Remember, the superpower of an entrepreneur is figuring things out. So you got to ask yourself, like, why aren't you doing what it is you know you should be doing? You sit there, you listen to a lot of stuff. You're like, yeah, I know. I heard this before. Oh, I heard it a million times. And it's like that quote from Emerson, from Ralph Waldo Emerson, where he said, the step from knowing to doing is rarely taken. And you got to ask yourself, why? The step from knowing to doing is rarely taken. Why? Why is that? And it's because understanding something and doing it are two different skills, literally two different things. Understanding something is mental. It's just something that's in your head. Like, anyone can understand something. Doing something is physical and emotional. So it's like when I was cold emailing, like, I understood in my head, okay, yeah, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna write out emails, all sorts of, like, you understand that. So if someone tells me, yeah, you got a cold email in order to get some business, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I know. But then when I go to do it, it's very different. Then the emotions get involved, and now it's because it's physical. So now I'm actually doing it, and I got bored as all hell. I'm like, oh man, it's the same repetitive task over and over. I'm like, oh man, come on. And it's not just for a day. It's not even for a week. It's months, years. Like, that's literally what it is you're doing, just over and over and over again. And so it's emotional, and the emotions come into play. And that's why people aren't doing stuff, because understanding is very easy. You listen to a YouTube video or a podcast or whatever they say, you can understand it. Like, unless they're talking about like physics or something really complicated, some chemistry or something, you can pretty much understand what anyone's saying to you. But in order to actually do it, now the emotions get involved, and now all of a sudden you do a little bit, oh, boom, uncertainty hits you. Let's say you're cold emailing, you start cold emailing or cold calling, all of a sudden you're like, oh man, they didn't say yes. Oh man, let me go back to the drawing board. Let me figure out a better script. And boom, like, you're now back into the mental aspect, and you're now in the understanding phase. Boom, you naturally get stuck. Every single person who gets stuck, it's simply because they're not taking the next step. It's because they're trying to figure out, all right, let me figure out 100 steps instead of just saying, all right, I'm on step 1. I know what step 2 is. Let me just do that. I don't even know what step 4 is yet, but I know what step 2 is. So let me just do step 2 for now. And then all of a sudden, when you do step 2, you see step 3. And when you do step 3, all of a sudden you see step 4. And when you do step 4, you see step 5. That's how it works. Knowing that you should essentially, let's say, like eat right, and having the feeling of ice cream are very different. It's like, you should eat right, but then all of a sudden you see ice cream, you're like, ooh, oh man, that looks good. And boom, you start eating some ice cream. And so it's like the emotions, the emotions and the mental aspect are very different. Understanding is simply mental, doing is physical and emotional. And if you don't truly understand, if you don't get over that emotional aspect of you doing, then you're going to retreat back to the understanding part. So most people, they know what they should be doing to build their business. They just don't. They just simply don't take those steps. And you have to understand that when you feel stuck, you have to take the next step of knowing what it is you should be doing. I guarantee you, everybody listening to this knows exactly what they should be doing to build their business. Every single person. Like, maybe you don't know the details. Maybe you know, okay, yeah, I should be spending money on advertising, Instagrams or Facebook ads or YouTube ads. You know it, but maybe you don't know the details of the Facebook ads and adding the pixel and all that sort of stuff. But how do you think you're going to figure it out? You're not going to figure it out by sitting down researching all the time. You're going to figure it out by saying, all right, let me open up a Facebook page. All right, okay, how do I set up ads? Okay, oh, this business manager thing. Okay, let me set that up real quick. What is this thing? Okay, like that's the only way you figure it out. You have to move into the uncertainty and then it becomes certain. So if you're sitting there and you're planning and you're researching all the time, that is exactly why you're getting stuck. You have to take the next step. You go to step 2 because that is how you see step 3. And then when you go to step 3, that's how you see step 4. Stop planning and researching all the time and start doing. That's it. I got nothing else to add to that. So, yep. Thanks everybody for listening. Hope you subscribe and I will see you guys later. Adios.